Drawing hands is so hard, and so many artists, both beginners and even professional artists, have difficulty doing it. So here's a little tutorial focusing just on that. This is the first tutorial in a series of videos that I previously posted on my Patreon, but since my Patreon is inactive now, I decided to make them free and available to all. If you enjoy them, please do subscribe and let me know in the comments if you have any other topics that you would like to see, and I hope you enjoy this little video about drawing hands. As you can see here, I have a reference picture of a hand, of a closed fist actually. But before I approach actually drawing this hand, I wanted to talk about a little technique that I use when I approach reference pictures. This technique is useful to remember that hands are 3D objects, as everything in the human body. So because a hand is a 3D object, to avoid it looking flat, we need to do what I call a priority check, a way to define what elements in this reference picture come first, as in they come forward towards the eye of the viewer or the camera, and what elements are behind. So as you can see here, these knuckles, for example, they are not all on the same layer of reality, but they are on different layers. So this one is first, then there's this, and then there's this. So one thing that I do before I even start drawing is to use little half circles or boxes or whatever to just quickly analyze and see exactly where these knuckles are placed. So we have like 1, 2, 3, and then the thumb is actually more forward than the index in this case. So this is the first thing I do when I approach a reference photo. A way that you can improve the way that you draw hands is definitely by practicing a lot from reference. This is also a useful website that I use, and you can see here there's hands and feet drawing, and you can just say, you know, like draw hands, only female or only male models, or in my case both, same length, 30 seconds, get drawing. And so as you can see, it will show you lots of different pictures of hands, also really weird ones for some reason, and this will hopefully give you plenty of practice for drawing hands. So the hands that I'm drawing now are taken from a different website, which is called Sketch Daily, but it was temporarily unavailable, so Line of Action is also a good substitute. Anyway, let's get back to our hand. So first we want to do the priority check. Second, we want to do a method that is called the dot method. The dot method basically consists in having the reference picture on one layer, have a different layer, in this case this is layer 17, and place a little dot on every reference markup that you see on the picture. So for example here, where you can see that the knuckle is sort of defined by the curve of the knuckle, and then you put a little dot there, basically a dot wherever you feel like there is a significant place, like for example here actually, where the knuckle meets the other knuckle, for example, and here at the wrist bone. So this method will give you a sort of visual reference of the shape of the hand, and it will be helpful if you then put the reference photo out, and you can still sort of retain in your mind's eye, the actual shape and dimension of the hand. So after you've done this, the third step is called blocking. Blocking basically means to look at the reference picture and simplify the shapes of this hand. So don't look at it as an organic thing, but look at it as like the hand of a robot, for example. Something very squared, like forget all these soft spaces and the little wrinkles and all of that. Just look at the bare skeleton underneath the skin of this hand, right? So I'm gonna use a different color, pink, and create a new layer. You can do it with the reference photo underneath for now. Don't try and trace the hand in an organic way, but just sort of try and strip it to its most basic blocks and try and see the 3D shape. So for example, this is a rectangle, like each finger is kind of like a rectangle. Well, more than a rectangle, a cylinder actually. And try and look at it as a cylinder. And this might help you figure out the 3D sort of construction of the hand. Like here as well, it's quite hard to see it from time to time because, I mean, this position is kind of weird at first, and also hands are very complex organic shapes, so don't worry if you can't do it at first. As you can see, I'm having a rough time myself. But then as you turn the opacity off, you can see that even though it's very squared and very robotic, you still retained the basic shape of the hand and its 3D sort of shape, which is the most important thing. Because after you have done this, the fourth step, it's called negative space. Negative space is the space that is not occupied by the hand. I know that this may sound a bit strange, but I'm gonna use a different color again. So the negative space is basically the space where there is no hand. So the areas in between the different fingers that is created by the absence of the shape. So this is negative space. This is negative space. This is negative space. And the negative space is just as unique as the shape of the hand. When you want to recreate the hand without actually drawing on top of the reference picture, so you're not tracing it, you're reproducing it with your own like hand-mind sort of coordination. If you have the negative space, you can sort of, again, kind of see where the hand is, and you can check whether the negative space that you've reproduced is the same as the negative space in the reference photo. So now that I have done it drawing on top of a reference picture, I'm gonna redo it by using a different reference photo and showing you how to do it, not by tracing, but just by reproducing it. So first thing is the priority check. We can see that there are the 4 fingers roughly spaced like this, and then the thumb. So this is pretty much the layer order. So this finger is the one that looks sort of like closer to the camera, and the thumb looks farthest away. So no surprises here with the priority check. Then step 2, dot method. So the dot method, we can see I put a dot at the end of each finger, in the middle of the finger as the 3D shape tells me. Maybe a dot here at the wrist as well. A dot here at the bottom of this line, the conjunction between the thumb and the finger. And why not? Let's put one here as well. And then a dot on each knuckle, each visible knuckle. I think that's good. Cool. And here at the... Okay. So then I move these here so that it will provide me with a guide for how the shape of the hand works and how the spacing of the fingers and the dimension of the hand works. So then I'll create a new layer. This one I lower the opacity a little bit. Create a new layer, and let's go with blocking. So again, blocking means trying to see the hand not as an organic object, but as a very geometric object that we can decompose easily. So here's where the wrist sort of like joined with the hand. So if I read my dots correctly, this is as you can see, I'm just roughly sort of blocking in these shapes and trying to see the images as 3D as possible. This is where the last finger is. This is the ring finger. This is the arch of the palm. As you can see, I'm trying to figure out the shape of the actual palm as well as the shape of each finger. So here we are. This is a very rough sort of block out. But it shows me roughly but effectively the 3D sort of shape of the fingers by seeing them as kind of cylinders. This is a blockout, and now I'm gonna check that this blockout is correct by blocking in the negative space. The negative space here, the negative space here, negative space here in between the fingers. And eventually you can do this just by looking at the negative space and assessing whether the negative space is accurate or not, which is what I've tried to do. And when you get good at assessing negative space by just looking at it, then you'll be able to accurately portray reference pictures and their dimensions, and the proportions of your drawings will look very accurate and spot on. So I am going to duplicate this layer and move it to my hand. So as I move it to the hand that I just drew, I can check whether the negative space is where it's supposed to be, or whether I changed some of the proportions of this hand. So in some areas I was correct, and in others I was quite wrong. So as you can see, this area is quite correct. This area is correct, so good job me. This one is almost correct, slightly off, but kind of okay. This one also kinda. So the real problem is here. Obviously my hand, I drew it way too low because the negative space is up here. So this is the negative space that should have been portrayed accurately in my drawing. Instead, I got it done here. So this is the area that I need to change in this case. So I need to amend my blocking, turn it down a little, and move up the little finger and this part. So there you go. The little finger goes on top of the other finger, the ring finger, and I needed to put it up a little. So now it looks better, it looks more accurate. And next step is to create a new layer on top. Use your preferred line art brush. In my case, I'm still gonna use the animator brush and just redo the drawing, the sketch, however you like to call it, but in a more organic way. Trying to actually depict all the different details of the hand that you want to recreate, including all the little wrinkles. And it depends, of course, how much you want it to be realistic or how much you want it to be stylized. So if you want it to be stylized, you don't need to be as accurate in terms of proportions and in terms of, you know, real life depictions of wrinkles and all that jazz, because, well, cartoons rarely show wrinkles unless the characters are really super duper old, because wrinkles on a cartoon character usually make it look very, very old very fast. So if you want to create a cartoon character that looks super old, then by all means draw as many wrinkles as you want. But if your cartoon character is quite young, then you better avoid wrinkles, or, you know, too many wrinkles, because it will make it look way older than you expected to look. So as you can see, I'm just quickly sort of drawing in, filling in with a more naturalistic and organic brushstroke the original skeleton, like the block out, it's called, of the hand that I did before. And there we go. This is a very quick hand, but it's accurate and it looks in perspective, and it retained the original strength of the hand gesture. So that's how you draw a hand in perspective, which of course would not be the same to draw it in a more stylized way. So for example, if we want to go more stylized, still following the same gesture, but just trying to give it more of a cartoony feel. And of course that means changing the proportions a little bit. So the wrist, for example, becomes a lot smaller in cartoons, and also the gesture becomes more accentuated. You want to really transfer the strength of the movement by accentuating all the little pushes in the hand, all the, like for example here. So you want to accentuate these sort of like angles and curves to really push the feeling of this movement, like a claw movement, right? And as you can see here, it's already starting to look more cartoony. And to even push it further, even change the proportions, like in cartoony hands, the palm of the hand is much smaller than the fingers usually. So I am gonna quickly do this amendment. I mean, it's not gonna look like correct 100% because I'm doing it with the lasso tool. But as you can see, by making the palm much smaller, and therefore the fingers look longer and bigger in comparison to the palm, I am already giving it a more cartoony feel, a more elegant feel, I would say. Like, I'd say that this is a female hand now, because the fingers are quite pointy and slender in comparison to the palm. So this is just a quick way that you can change proportions and make a traditional realistic hand more cartoony by making the palm smaller, the fingers longer and more pointy and more refined, to really pump up the acting and make them look more feminine. Or if you want to make them look more masculine, you can give it a more squarish sort of finish to the end of the fingertips. It's a memo again from 2023. I hope you've enjoyed the video, that maybe drawing hands is not such a daunting idea anymore. So please do let me know how you found this tutorial, let me know in the comments, let me know if you want to see any more different topics as a tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!